America's 52 Stories, with life lessons for personal growth.
This 19-year-old experienced the unthinkable horror of having to amputate his own leg in an effort to survive. It was an excruciating passage into manhood few could ever imagine, let alone endure. On July 1, Wilkeson was ordered to hold a hill which would buy time for the Union Army to organize its defenses closer to town. Not so calmly, he directed his men to maintain a steady and effective fire. Enemy artillery commanders saw him as a nuisance in the way of a major Confederate advance. A conspicuous target on his horse, Wilkeson found a dozen cannons pointed directly at his position in a devastating converging fire. An enemy shell went through his horse and mangled Wilkeson's right leg below the knee. With unimaginable courage, he took this small knife from his pocket and cut through the remaining pieces of flesh that kept his leg attached to his body. He ordered 4 of his men to carry him to a nearby house and then told them to return to battle. Hours later, Bayard Wilkeson had died. You are courageous. If courage is the strength of mind that defeats whatever threatens your purpose, if it is the capacity to endure the worst of circumstances, if it is taking action without regard to failure, then Wilkeson proved that courage is not a virtue exclusive to the older and more experienced, but an inherent human quality that reveals itself in stressful circumstances regardless of age. When challenged by adversity, you can achieve what is necessary and lead others to do the same. By your example, you are a motivating influence. On 9/11, those passengers who rose from their seats to struggle with terrorists on Flight 93 did so in the worst of circumstances and were influenced by the terrorists and each other to act in a manner that perhaps saved the lives of thousands on the ground. Acknowledge your fears. Wilkeson inspires us to accept the one thing that keeps us from our own success, our fears. They are what keep us from being an honor student, a star athlete, a respected boss, anyone who others consider remarkable. What we avoid is the fear of pain, embarrassment, rejection, criticism, or failure. These possibilities weigh heavily on us as we step outside our comfort zone, not realizing that the talent we already possess goes undemonstrated and unrecognizable. We then convince ourselves that we have little or no talent. We settle for a low level of self-esteem. But courage can change it. It inspires us to act. Its lasting inspiration comes from designing goals that motivate us toward their achievement. It also recognizes that there are risks in attempting, for example, to start a company, become a parent, speak in public, or fight a battle. Once you acknowledge your fears, which in itself is an act of courage, the possibilities of success are endless. The courage of teenager Wilkeson came from acknowledging his fear of death, but he acted outside his comfort zone by taking risks and faced his fears head-on. In other words, be a Wilkeson. Rush onto the battlefield of your own fears, and success will be within your grasp. Right now, every student has the right to be thinking, what do I do with this information? Let's start by asking these questions, and you can provide your own answers.